St. Thomas University Journalism and the New Brunswick Beacon present The Basement Files.
Hey, and welcome to this week's episode of The Basement Files. I'm Mitchell Pearden.
I'm Jordan Baxter.
And I'm Catherine Morehouse. Here are your top stories.
With the hustle and bustle of Santa Claus coming to town, do we still have time to remember?
The good old hockey game named Fredericton its home this past weekend.
Remembrance Day comes before Christmas, but instead of remembering, stores are getting ready for the holiday season. But should Christmas decorations be sold before the Memorial holiday? Natalie Sturgeon has more.
People in downtown Fredericton are hitting the local stores to find that perfect Christmas item. But it's still 7 weeks until Christmas. And another important event comes first, Remembrance Day. Even though decorations, lights, and Christmas sales are already available to shoppers, Robert Fleet doesn't decorate his home before November 11th. He is a veteran of the war in Afghanistan. Fleet served from 2001 to 2014.
On November 11th, we commemorate the people who made the ultimate sacrifice for our freedoms. And I think it's important to take time on November 11th to celebrate just that.
But local retail worker Brett McDonald said retail stores only have a limited time to sell their product, and they need to take full advantage of that window.
Where it doesn't matter if they're purchasing now, doesn't mean they're going to decorate now, but because it's available, it gives the retailer a longer period of time to sell those goods so they don't have to clear them after Christmas.
McDonald says sometimes customers want the item they missed out on last year, and this has nothing to do with disrespecting veterans. Although Fleet says he doesn't decorate his home before November 11th, he believes that people have the right to do so. To Fleet, his time overseas represents a personal sacrifice for every Canadian's freedom.
If people want to put up Christmas decorations early, if they want to advertise for it early, that's our right as Canadian citizens. As a veteran, I fought for our freedoms.
Fleet is now a successful businessman and owns Boom Nightclub and Capital City Property Management. Whether you do your Christmas shopping in July, December, or somewhere in between, Remembrance Day has always been on November 11th. Lest we forget. For Stu Journalism, I'm Natalie Sturgeon.
The 15th annual Silverway Film Festival was held this last weekend in Fredericton. The festival, which was created by NB Film Co-op staff, lasted 4 days from November 5th to November 8th. The festival played numerous documentaries, short films, and feature films in 6 different locations in the city. The festival also included things like panels, awards, workshops, and social parties. This year's Silverway Film Festival was a big hit, bringing in dozens of people throughout the weekend. It's expected that next year, they'll keep their camera rolling till next November.
St. Thomas University had their open house this past Saturday when the campus was livelier than ever, with professors and students engaging with incoming students. Sherry Hahn reports.
Over the past decade, enrollment of St. Thomas dropped nearly a third. Last year, enrollment dropped by 6.5%, resulting in 144 fewer students than 2013. Because of that, the university is paying more attention on this year's open house and getting encouraging results. Director of Recruitment Kat Croft said 100 more potential students came this year than last year.
In terms of registered students, I believe we had 238, but I just got preliminary numbers back, and I think we were over 250 students, which is our biggest open house to date. So,
most students bring their parents, which means an even larger crowd.
All of the students usually bring 1 or 2 people with them, their families or friends or support in some way. So when I say 250, that was, even if you account for everybody having one person, that gets you up to 500, and then some people bring both parents and brothers and sisters, so it becomes quite a large group.
35 volunteers showed visited the campus, the main academic and administrative buildings. Faculty members and current students talked to students and their parents, telling them about the program they were interested in and giving them a sample of classroom instructions. It all looked good to Victoria Gaster, who said she intends to enroll at St. Thomas.
I learned about a lot of things that I didn't really know existed here, and like all of the different courses that are offered within each department that I just had no idea I could even take, so I'm excited about that too.
And Victoria was not only one. More than 200 students meet with admissions counselors and applied on the spot. That means this year is past the reversal of downward trend in applications. For Still Journalism, I'm Sherry Han.
Something random was bringing out the community spirit last week in Fredericton. People were going out of their way to be kindly to strangers. Sean Goff looked into why.
Random acts of kindness were happening all over Fredericton last Friday as part of a community event. Random Acts of Kindness Day, or RAC Day, is part of an international movement. It aims to spread awareness and engagement of kind actions. Sadie Gallagher from the Fredericton Community Foundation says she wants residents to have fun with RAC Day.
We're just hoping it's something random. So throughout your day, you see a stranger, you buy their coffee, you put some money in their meter, but it's also not about buying people things. You can break someone's leaves, you can do anything. It's supposed to be random, but also, fun.
The international movement started in 1995, but came to Canada in 2008. Gallagher said this is the third RAC Day in Fredericton. Local businesses participated throughout Fredericton. Volunteers held a free RAC Day barbecue at a local car dealership over lunch, and a cafe handed out free coffees all morning. Good gangs, groups committed to RAC Day, were at St. Thomas and UMB handing out candy all afternoon. Along with goodies, RAC Day cards were handed out. The cards urge those who receive kindness to pay it forward to someone else. The cards encourage Frederictonians to take selfless selfies and post them to Twitter using the hashtag FredRac15. The hashtag will be monitored by the foundation, and prizes will be awarded to participants throughout the day. New federal MP, Matt DeCourcy, went downtown to Second Cup for the RAC Day launch.
I think around the day here today, it's important that we all think about thanking those who have served our country in uniform, soldiers, veterans, and their families. I think we should extend this random act of kindness well into Wednesday.
Some students, like Lindsay DeMerchant, think RAC Day is a great idea, but aren't on board with the social media aspect.
Maybe like the thought of altruism and it being documented. Is that really like putting someone else first instead of putting yourself first and trying to show what an awesome person you are? Is that really actually being an awesome person?
Despite this, DeMerchant is still happy that people are getting involved in their communities because of RAC Day. Though the day only happens once a year, people are still encouraged to do random acts of kindness throughout their community all year round. For the New Brunswick Beacon, I'm Sean Goff.
Dozens of St. Thomas students gathered in the Great Hall Thursday for good coffee and great music. As a way to bring new light into what used to be the Stu Chapel, the Student Union and Stu faculty put on a coffee house. All students were invited to play music and perform spoken word pieces. Aramark provided free coffee and tea to those who attended, as well as prizes for a 50-50 draw. A painting of the Stu campus was the grand prize for the draw. Stu President Don Russell presented the awards. The coffee house has been a tradition each semester for these past few years and receives a bigger turnout each time.
Rogers Hometown Hockey dropped in Fredericton this past weekend as one of their tour stops. The show was filmed at Officers Square and outlined Fredericton's hockey heritage. Cody Peters has more on this event.
Fredericton was the fifth stop on the Rogers Hometown Hockey Tour. It's described on the tour's website as Canada's ultimate hockey festival. The festival highlights each town and explores the community's hockey roots. A full schedule of events takes place over the 2-day stop in Fredericton. Shootouts, floor hockey matches, and special appearances by Paz, the all-star circus performer. Former National Hockey League player Darcy Tucker took part in the tour. He signed autographs and met with fans. Tucker spent the 1995-96 season playing for the former Fredericton Canadians. They were the Montreal Canadiens farm team.
It's been interesting. I had an outstanding year here in the American Hockey League playing for the Fredericton Canadians, and I was able to win Rookie of the Year, and so it was a good stepping stone for me to get to the National Hockey League.
Not only did Tucker sign autographs for people, but he did it for dogs too. Hometown hockey supporter Scotiabank made a $15,000 donation to the Fredericton Youth Hockey Association. Scotiabank District Representative Scott Allen.
The event has been amazing, a lot of energy. There's been a lot of youth hockey teams that have come by today as well, which has been really neat to see. And they've visited the Scotiabank locker where there's a lot of interactive games, opportunity to get the commemorative jersey, which has Fredericton 2015 on the back, which is pretty neat to see.
The event included games and entertainment for the family and a chance to try being a sportscaster on the Sportsnet's Be a Broadcaster booth. The main event of the weekend was filming of the pregame show for the Edmonton Oilers and the Chicago Blackhawks game Sunday night. Coach's Corner co-host Ron McLean was in Fredericton for the pregame show.
There are 24 stops on the Rogers Hometown Hockey Tour. Their next stop will be in Sydney, Nova Scotia. For St. Thomas Journalism, I'm Cody Peters.
St. Thomas University's men's rugby team played University of New Brunswick this past Saturday in the PEI New Brunswick Provincial Finals. It has been 11 years since St. Thomas has been in the Provincial Finals. It was a hard-fought match fought between both teams, with UNB in the end becoming victorious with a score of 53-16. UNB will have the opportunity to become the Maritime champions when they play St. Francis Xavier University on November 14th right here in Fredericton.
School uniforms have been a hot topic across Canada the past few years. A recent survey shows that 40% of people agree that uniforms would end the debate. Fernanda Damiani shows us a cultural spin on the topic.
These children are from a high school in Honduras. Those from an elementary school in Brazil, a high school in Japan, and an elementary school in Africa. But these students attend a school here in Canada.
So there's certain inequalities there that you can notice just by the clothing, which is very shallow. Uniforms is easy. The school can provide them for children that need them, that cannot afford them.
St. Thomas University student Luisa Ospina went to a school in Colombia for most of her life. But when she came to Canada, she went to Carleton North High School, which was uniformless.
In my country, in Colombia, where we didn't care what we wore because we were all wearing the same, right? So it was just less judgmental, less inequalities between kids.
In a survey made by the National Association of Elementary School Principals in the United States, 85% of school leaders said uniforms had a positive impact on classroom discipline. The same poll found that 58% of parents wanted a mandatory uniform policy for their children.
Ecole Saint Anne student Monica Paz also had to wear a uniform through her high school years in Honduras. But since her family moved to Canada, she studies in a school where uniforms are not required.
I think all Canadian schools should allow school uniforms, first of all because it creates less drama, because students don't have to worry about the dress code and they can be more focused on learning. And secondly, I think that based on punctuality, it's easier to get ready in the morning if you have a uniform rather than just picking out your clothes. So also it's cheaper to just buy a uniform rather than buying clothes to wear throughout the whole school year.
Journalism student at St. Thomas University, Hadil Bashar studied in two different countries, Iraq and United Arab Emirates, where uniforms were mandatory.
I think uniforms are good because they even out the playing ground for all students. So socioeconomic backgrounds doesn't matter, and all you have to focus on is education.
Bashar points out that as with everything else, uniforms have problems.
The only downside that I found in wearing uniforms is that girls had to wear skirts, and it was really hot, and boys were allowed to wear shorts and pants.
First-year student at St. Thomas, Erin Matthew grew up in Canada and never wore uniforms in her life.
Uniforms, they solve a lot of problems. They solve dress code problems, they solve bullying problems. When everyone looks the same, when everyone dresses the same, everyone's accepting everyone else.
Josh Walter, on the other hand, also studied in a Canadian school for his whole life. For him, uniforms are the worst.
I don't like uniforms. I think growing up, I think you have to go through the process of figuring out who you are, and I think your style is really important. It's a way you just get to communicate who you are, and I think uniforms just kind of kill that. I was a little rebellious when I was younger, so I think I'd rip them off. I don't know. I think I think I'd just do little things just to piss off whoever made me wear them.
In Canada, school uniforms were never required in most public schools. European school uniforms influence several countries in the world, but not Canada. A survey made by the University of Houston showed the average absence rate for girls in middle and high school decreased by 7% after the introduction of uniforms. Another survey showed 90% of the United States school leaders believe uniforms make it easier to get kids ready in the morning. For Student Journalism, Fernanda Damiani reports.
Even though Halloween has ended for another year, that didn't stop people from dressing up in their best zombie costumes to run, not walk, for a good cause. Here's Kennedy Bowden-Welsh with the story.
Go out in the woods today, prepare for a big surprise. And I'm not talking about a teddy bear picnic. Killarney Lake was taken over by zombies this weekend as part of a 5-kilometer race called the Running Dead. The race was put on by the Fredericton Sexual Assault Center. Even though the event supports such a serious cause, Jen Gorham, our program coordinator for the center, says it's all about the fun and getting people out.
This is really just a fun run. It's not meant to kind of be about awareness. It's really just a way to get the community out and raise some much needed funds for the center.
Zombies were briefed for the race and reminded that today they weren't allowed to eat people's brains. With families of all ages participating, some parents, like Courtney, saw it as a way to get the little ones out and involved even in the smallest of ways.
Well, we were going to run, but I'm pregnant, so I can't run. An activity for my son to get out and have some fun and try to get people going. And he likes to pretend he's a zombie anyway. So.
The race started on the beach, where people grouped themselves off and then were released into the woods, never to be seen again.
For some, it might have been their first race, but it definitely won't be their last. For Student Journalism, I'm Kennedy Bowden-Welsh.
And that's our show for the week.
Until we return in 2 weeks, remember to check out mbbeacon.ca for the latest in St. Thomas journalism.
From all of us at the Basement Files, thanks for tuning in.
And see you next time.